The 3-episode rule is something that all old school anime fans know about. It's when you give an anime 3 episodes to see if it can really reel you in. And if it doesn't, well, then you just don't take the bait. And I know there's a lot of Isekai slop out there.
Leave me alone!
Like, there's more Isekai slop than any form of slop on the planet. Pigs don't even eat Isekai slop anymore.
Oh no!
So, I'm gonna do it for you. And I'm gonna be watching the daily life of an online shopper stuck in another world. Episode 1. The first episode throws us straight into Kenshi's transition from modern Japan to a fantasy world. Unlike some normal Isekai protagonists who are either summoned or die when they get hit by a truck, Kenshi finds himself transported. A little bit of like turning the opacity down in Premiere Pro. This seemingly random event feels more like a gag than any serious setting for tone. You know, this is something to be acknowledged further down the line. The show really just does not care to make itself very serious. His ability is simple, but game breaking. He can buy anything from an online store and have it instantly delivered to him. He can also sell items from his world to obtain Japanese currency. This removes any real survival struggle. Kenshi encounters a wolf-like pack of monsters. Rather than engaging in combat or using creativity, he just buys slingshot and scares them away. Well, I suppose you could argue it's a subversion of expectations compared to usual power fantasy isekai heroes, I suppose. But it's not interesting. There's a reason why these do well with guys swinging around swords and shooting off magic. So, needless to say, it removes any form of tension that has been seen in the show thus far. One strength of the episode, it pays attention to the economy. Kenshi quickly realizes that the mundane modern objects like candy and clothespins are very valuable in this medieval society. The introduction of Merchant Fuyo and, the information given by him about the spice monopoly hints at a larger economic conflict. Maybe that's the direction the show will go in, driving up a narrative. I doubt it. But if it does, it could provide the series with more depth if explored properly. Once again, I doubt they will. That being said, the episode contains an early warning sign, an unnecessary suggestive scene with Azael, the innkeeper's daughter. In the scene, Azael just taught Kenshi how to read and write the local language, and he's drawing a portrait of her, just in his spare time, just for fun. And this obviously is a big deal to her. Getting a portrait of yourself is kind of a massive deal in medieval society. So the red flag, erects when she wants to repay him for said service, and you can almost just immediately guess where that goes. However, the rest of the episode was actually pretty chill, pretty fun vibes. It's kind of goofy moments the whole way through, an unsure of himself character running into this world, and honestly, it's a lot less goonery than I thought it was going to be. It's honestly just been pretty fun. The second episode continues to expand Kenshi's economic exploits. He sets up a shop, introducing common Japanese goods to a medieval market. Items like paper and washing pegs become small revelations, reinforcing the theme of how small conveniences can shape this society. Something simple like a piece of paper is worth hundreds of times more in this world where that has to all be made by hand. The anime does well in showing how technology, even something as simple as a spring-loaded clip, can feel like magic to those unfamiliar with it. Unfortunately, the episode also doubles down on those really awkward and gross things we were talking about before. Forced fan service. Along with Azel, there is also another woman in contention for Kenshi's heart. Some cat girl. I can't remember her name because it's a pun on meow, and goddamn, I'm not giving that any more time than it needs. This trope where female characters instantly fall for the main lead simply because he does something nice is one of the laziest within anime. And it's prevalent in every single show, even shows that are actually really well written. This sort of thing will just appear in. Moreover, the series also indulges in another trope, which is the fact that the protagonist who can advance society into modern age, or at least progress its science to the point where he can feel comfortable within it. I'd like to say that Dr. Stone is an isekai because technically he is in a new world. It's the same world, but if you think about it, is the Earth still the Earth if it hasn't been affected by mankind for thousands of years and every single example of man existing is gone? That's a new world in my eyes. So when we see things like when I was reincarnated as a slime, stuff like that, where with this guy's extra knowledge, he can understand how you could make a small settlement or a small country. Although it's refreshing enough that he doesn't want to lead any form of country that he could develop, he simply just wants to sell it for profit and live a small life. That's the refreshing part of this isekai. That's what sets it apart. Sure, this guy has a crazy ability that lets him do some stupid ass crap, but what does he choose to do with that? Go into the woods alone and build himself a little settlement. That's what he does. Getting introduced to a trading company that are going to sell his goods, although the daughter, once again, is a woman, so she is drawn to our main character and any desire he wants. But I will say it is refreshing that the main character actively pushes that away. That at this point in time, I felt that it was good because that's how I felt. Get that shit away from my face. But I can really tell that that's only going to last so long, and he's going to give in eventually, and then I'm just going to tap out of this show. But until then, it's actually been pretty fun. By the third episode, the anime fairly established itself as isekai comfort food. It's not trying to challenge any genre or be individual or interesting in any regard. Kenshi continues to introduce modern goods, earning admiration, money, and influence. However, the lack of meaningful conflict becomes apparent. The episode touches on the Merchants Guild system, showing that some institutions resist change. The Backpapa Spice Syndicate is one of the potential antagonists of this series. Not that we've seen much of them, but so far, there's no real threat. Kenji's abilities make him immune to most struggles of this age. The biggest challenge is filling out paperwork, which really isn't that riveting. Another issue is how this anime treats its female characters. Now, if Kenji was gay and it was men doing all this stuff, it would still be the exact same issue. This isn't like a gender particular problem in writing, but just in this instance, it's how the women are written is cringe. Azel and Anma, being another merchant that, works alongside Kenshi, exist primarily to react to his success. They're more propped than developed individuals. They're reduced to blushing or admiring the protagonist. This is another common isekai flaw, within characters being written as trophies rather than people of their own ambitions. The episode further emphasizes Kenshi's convenience-driven powers and his convenience-driven objective. Instead of problem solving in an engaging way, he simply buys every solution. Now, I will say there's some information gathering and research done into what items he gets and how he can fuel the machines he buys off the market. There's a little bit of thought put into that side of things. To be honest, talking about how much it's going to cost to fuel his digger isn't exactly interesting. It's relatable, it's just not very interesting. The appeal of isekai often relies on seeing characters adapt to their world. Kenshi doesn't need to. He shows even acknowledgement of how bizarrely easy his life has become. But rather than critiquing it, it plays straight into it. It honestly kind of feels like a gag anime, but it isn't one. At the 3-episode mark, the daily life of a middle-aged shopper in another world is exactly what it appears to be. A simple, indulgent power fantasy, not so much in physical power like in a traditional shonen, but more of his power just being crazy OP for this world. It does have a somewhat unique economic angle, but it really challenges its protagonist. It tends to lean into isekai cliches of effortless success, instant admiration, and unnecessary fan service. That last one being my main issue. I like fan service, but I don't want lots of it. Okay, to be honest, once every 50 episodes would be enough for me. Or if it's funny, if it's actually funny, then that's fine. Isekai fans, this series actually is very enjoyable. But for those looking for actual tension and complex characters or meaningful world building, it's unlikely to satisfy you. This show has the potential to explore some modern themes, maybe of consumerism versus this medieval society, but instead it chooses to focus on how cool it is to have this unlimited Amazon account in another world. Which honestly is good because although I don't think this anime should pass your 3-episode rule, I may have watched the entire thing. I don't have an excuse for that. I just was, I guess, in the mood for some slop, and I ate up like a pig who went eating. However, I do have big issues with it. The extensive fan service in particular, of how it portrays its female characters. It's just crazy. It just further cheapens the experience for me. Even when I want to eat the slop, I do have to stop munching anytime this crap comes up. In the end, the anime is less about survival in another world and more about the ultimate convenience store experience, which honestly is just deadly. I actually really admire how comfy and lame this story is because, well, Piggy gotta eat.